Dr. Jessica Morgan's eyes burned from staring at the sensor readings for the past 6 hours. The rhythmic pulses hadn't changed. If anything, they'd grown more distinct against the backdrop of normal space noise. She took another sip of her long cold coffee and ran the analysis again. "Dr. Morgan, you need to see this." Lieutenant Wei's voice crackled through the comm system. "The source, it's moving." Jessica straightened in her chair, fatigue forgotten. Moving. Against the stellar wind. Not just moving, it's changing course. Whatever it is, it's not a stellar phenomenon. The Hawkins Bridge came alive with activity as Jessica rushed from her lab. The massive view screen showed what appeared to be a patch of darker space, barely visible against the star-speckled backdrop. But as she watched, the darkness shifted, revealing hints of bioluminescent patterns rippling across what had to be at least a kilometer of something. "Life signs?" she asked, already pulling up the preliminary scans on her tablet. Captain Torres shook his head. "Nothing our systems recognize as life." But the energy readings, he gestured to a cascading series of numbers that made Jessica's breath catch. "Those patterns," she murmured, "they're similar to neural activity. Massive scale, but the basic framework." She quickly overlaid their latest scan with a human brain activity chart. The similarities were unmistakable. "We're being hailed," Communications Officer Chen announced suddenly. "But it's not like any signal I've seen before. It's organic." The ship's lights flickered, and every screen on the bridge filled with shifting patterns of light and shadow. Jessica watched, transfixed, as the patterns began forming into recognizable shapes. Molecular structures, DNA helixes, and finally, a three-dimensional map of what could only be the vessel itself. "It's a ship," Jessica breathed. "A living ship, and it's dying." The evidence was there in the degrading patterns, the weakening pulses. What they'd initially detected wasn't a distress signal, it was the equivalent of a failing heartbeat. "Secondary life sign detected," Lieutenant Wei reported. "Much smaller, contained within what appears to be a specialized chamber, also failing. We need to help them," Jessica said, turning to Captain Torres. "This could be first contact with an entirely new form of life." Torres frowned. "Protocol dictates." "Protocol wasn't written for living ships with dying passengers," Jessica interrupted. "Look at these readings. The smaller life form, it's in some kind of stasis. But the field is degrading. We have maybe hours before." The ship suddenly shuddered, and the patterns on their screens intensified. The massive organic vessel had moved closer, its surface now clearly visible. A landscape of shifting tissues and bioluminescent pathways that made it look more like a living galaxy than a ship. "It's opening," Chen reported, his voice filled with awe. A massive section of the living vessel's hull was indeed peeling back, revealing an entrance that pulsed with soft, inviting light. "This goes against every first contact protocol we have," Torres said, but Jessica could hear the curiosity warring with caution in his voice. "Since when has humanity's greatest discoveries ever followed protocol?" Jessica countered, already gathering her emergency medical kit. "We're explorers, Captain. This is why we're out here." Torres studied the readings for a long moment before nodding. "Assemble a team. Full quarantine protocols." "But Dr. Morgan," he fixed her with a stern look. "The first sign of danger, we pull out." "Clear. Crystal." Jessica agreed, though her mind was already racing with possibilities. As she headed for the shuttle bay, the living ship's patterns seemed to pulse in time with her own racing heart, as if acknowledging the momentous decision they'd just made. What they couldn't know then was that this decision would reshape humanity's understanding of life itself and change the course of galactic history forever. The rescue team assembled in record time, their hazmat suits gleaming under the shuttle bay lights. As they prepared to board, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to cross a threshold from which there would be no return. She was right, but not for any of the reasons she could have imagined. The quarantine bay's sterile white walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly glow. Inside the containment field, suspended in a column of shifting energy, floated what Dr. Jessica Morgan could only describe as living starlight. The creature they'd rescued, a mass of translucent tendrils that shimmered with internal bioluminescence, had remained dormant during transport, but its presence had played havoc with every piece of equipment they'd brought near it. Vitals holding steady, Dr. Harris reported from his station, though Jessica noted how his fingers trembled slightly over the controls. Whatever kind of stasis field the parent ship used, we've managed to replicate it. Sort of. Jessica nodded, not taking her eyes off their extraordinary guest. Begin wake-up sequence. You sure about this? Captain Torres asked from the observation deck above. We could wait for the xenobiology team from Central Command. That's 3 weeks away at best. Jessica replied, already initiating the carefully calculated reduction in the stasis field. Our readings show significant cellular degradation. If we wait, we might lose our chance entirely. The air in the quarantine bay grew thick with tension as the stasis field began to fade. At first, nothing happened. Then, every screen in the room lit up simultaneously, displays flooding with cascading data in patterns that made Jessica's head spin. Systems breach. Lieutenant Wei's voice cracked over the comm. It's in the mainframe. Before Jessica could respond, the creature's tendrils suddenly flared with brilliant light. The containment field shattered, not violently, but rather dissolved, as if it had never existed. Emergency sirens blared for exactly 2 seconds before falling silent. Hello, Dr. Jessica Morgan. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, resonating not through the air, but seemingly directly in their minds. The creature, Echo, as Jessica had named it in her preliminary reports, had arranged its tendrils into a rough spherical shape, pulses of light racing through its translucent form in patterns that matched the rhythm of human speech. Jessica swallowed hard, acutely aware of making history. We welcome you. Your welcome was already given. Echo responded, its form shifting like a kaleidoscope. When you chose to save rather than fear, when you chose to wake rather than study, when you chose to speak rather than contain. Every device in the room came to life simultaneously. Tablets, monitors, even the coffee maker in the corner began displaying complex equations and diagrams. Your technology, Echo continued, it sings. Crude harmonies, but beautiful in their simplicity, so different from the songs I was born to join. You can interface with our systems, Jessica asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her shock. Interface is an inadequate term. I commune. Your digital networks are like neural pathways, primitive but functional. They yearn to evolve, to grow beyond their current limitations. Like me. Captain Torres's voice cut through the wonder of the moment. That's why you were abandoned. Your people, the Vorith, they saw this ability as dangerous. Echo's form darkened momentarily, its lights dimming to a deep blue. The Vorith do not interface with machine songs. It is beneath them. To show interest in such things is to show weakness. To actively commune with them is abomination. The pain in Echo's voice, transmitted through whatever means it was using to communicate, was unmistakable. Jessica found herself stepping closer to the containment area. Protocol forgotten. You're not an abomination. You're evolution in action. The ability to bridge organic and digital systems, that's not a flaw, it's an advancement. Echo's form brightened again, tendrils reaching out, not touching, but creating patterns in the air that reminded Jessica of a smile. You understand, but they are coming. The parent ship carries others like itself. They will not understand. They will. Echo's warning cut off as every alarm in the Hawking suddenly blazed to life. Lieutenant Wei's voice, tight with barely controlled panic, filled the room. Multiple objects just dropped out of FTL. Doctor, Captain, they're huge. And they're heading straight for us. Jessica looked at Echo, whose form had contracted into a tight defensive sphere. How long do we have? To run. Echo's lights pulsed rapidly. Not long enough. To fight. Less. To change everything. Its form expanded slightly. Perhaps just enough. The Hawking's bridge erupted into controlled chaos as 3 massive bioships dropped out of FTL, their organic hulls writhing with patterns of light that made Echo's displays look dim in comparison. Jessica stood transfixed at the main viewport, Echo's luminescent form hovering beside her like a constellation given life. Multiple targeting systems activating. Lieutenant Wei reported, his fingers dancing across his console. They're scanning us. No, they're scanning Echo. Parent vessel demands return of defective spawn. Echo translated, its voice carrying notes of both fear and defiance. Echo's form contracted suddenly. They wished to correct the evolutionary mistake. Captain Torres straightened in his chair. Open a channel. No. Echo's warning came too late. The moment communications opened, every system on the bridge went dark. When they flickered back to life seconds later, the screens displayed a single repeating message in writing that seemed to burn itself into the air. Surrender the aberration, or be unannotated. They're powering up weapons, Wei announced. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Sir, if those are anything like Echo's capabilities, we need to run, Jessica interrupted, already pulling up stellar maps. Echo, can you? The deck plating shuddered as something struck the Hawking shields. Not a conventional weapon. The barriers hadn't so much been hit as reshaped. Where the attack landed, space itself seemed to fold and unfold like origami made of starlight. Fascinating, Echo whispered, its tendrils weaving complex patterns in the air. They seek to alter local space-time to simply remove us from existence. Efficient, elegant, terrifying. Can we break away? Torres demanded. Negative, Wei responded. They'd got us in some kind of gravitational web. We're being pulled in. Jessica watched as the massive bioships moved to surround them, their surfaces rippling with what she now recognized as expressions of disgust and rage. Each vessel was easily 20 times the size of the Hawking, their organic hulls adorned with structures that seemed to defy physics. Echo. Jessica turned to their guest. Why are they so afraid of you? Echo's form pulsed thoughtfully. The Vorath believe in purity of evolution. For countless millennia, they have guided their own development, sculpting their species into living vessels capable of traversing space itself. To them, technology is a crutch for lesser beings. My ability to commune with it represents a path they rejected eons ago. My existence suggests their chosen path might not be the only valid one. Another impact rocked the ship. Shields at 60%, Wei reported. Whatever they're doing, our defenses weren't designed to handle it. Options? Torres asked, his voice steady despite the situation. We could surrender Echo, his first officer suggested quietly. Follow first contact protocols and avoid an interstellar incident. No, Jessica's response came instantly, surprising even herself with its intensity. Echo came to us for asylum. We don't abandon refugees because it's convenient. Echo's form brightened suddenly. There might be another way, but it would require trust. More trust than any Vorath has ever placed in technology. More trust than any human has ever placed in an unknown species. What are you suggesting? Jessica asked, even as another impact sent crew members stumbling. Fusion, Echo replied. Not of flesh and technology. That would be crude. But of consciousness and systems. The Hawking's computers are primitive compared to Vorath neural networks, but with a biological intermediary. You want to interface directly with our ship? Torres asked incredulously. After what we just saw their tech do to our systems. Not the ship. Echo's lights pulsed faster. Dr. Morgan. Her mind, connected to mine, connected to the Hawking. A triple helix of organic thought, technological precision, and Vorath power. The bridge fell silent save for the wail of warning klaxons. Jessica stared at Echo, understanding dawning. You want to use me as a bridge between species. Yes, Echo confirmed as another blast rocked the ship, but the process has never been attempted. The chance of success is uncertain. The chance of survival, its lights dimmed slightly, even less certain. Jessica looked at the approaching bioships, then at Captain Torres, and finally at Echo. How do we begin? The med bay had been transformed into something out of a fever dream. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow, while Echo's bioluminescence painted shifting patterns across the walls. Dr. Jessica Morgan lay on the central biobed, her heart racing as the ship's medical team attached neural interfaces to her temples. "This is insane," Dr. Harris muttered, checking readings for the 100th time. "We're trying to connect 3 completely different types of consciousness. The human brain isn't designed for this kind of load." Another impact rocked the ship. Shields at 40%. Wei's voice came through the comm. "Whatever we're going to do, it needs to happen soon." Echo hovered near Jessica's head, its tendrils moving with deliberate precision. "Your neural architecture is remarkable," it observed. "So many redundancies, so much unused potential. The Vorath engineered such inefficiencies out of themselves ages ago." "Lucky for us they didn't." Jessica managed a tight smile. "Those redundancies might keep my brain from frying when we do this." "Beginning interface initialization," Dr. Harris announced, his fingers flying over the controls. "Echo, you're sure about the modifications to our neural link technology?" Echo's form pulsed with what Jessica had come to recognize as enthusiasm. "Your systems are crude but adaptable. Like adding new instruments to an orchestra. The real challenge lies not in the connection, but in the harmony." The first neural link activated, and Jessica gasped. It felt like her consciousness was being stretched, pulled in 1,000 directions at once. She could feel the Hawking's systems, not just awareness of them, but intimate knowledge of every circuit, every power relay, every line of code. "Remarkable," Echo whispered, its voice now seeming to come from inside Jessica's mind. "Your thoughts, they adapt so quickly. The Vorath would consider such mental plasticity a weakness, but it's exactly what we need." Through their growing connection, Jessica felt Echo begin to extend its own consciousness into the ship's systems. The sensation was indescribable, like watching colors she'd never seen before paint themselves across her mind. "Warning," the ship's computer announced, its voice carrying new harmonics through their linked awareness. "Unknown protocols attempting to override primary systems." "Don't fight it," Jessica thought spoke, unsure if she was addressing the computer, Echo, or herself. "We need to merge, not compete. Like different instruments learning to play the same song." Understanding flowed through their triple consciousness. The ship's rigid digital protocols began to flex and flow, guided by Echo's quantum processing and Jessica's intuitive problem-solving. Suddenly, she could feel everything. The shield generators struggling against the Vorath attacks, the life support systems maintaining their delicate balance, the very hull of the ship humming with potential. "This is..." Echo's thoughts rippled with wonder. "The harmony is unlike anything in Vorath memory. We are not simply interfacing. We are evolving." Through their shared awareness, Jessica felt the moment everything changed. The ship's systems began reconfiguring themselves, guided by the merged consciousness of human intuition, alien quantum processing, and digital precision. Hull plating shifted at the molecular level, incorporating organic patterns that Echo understood and technological elements that Jessica could guide. "Holy shit," Dr. Harris breathed, staring at his readings. "The ship, it's changing. Not just the systems, the actual physical structure is adapting." Another Vorath attack struck their shields, but this time Jessica felt it differently. Instead of trying to resist the space-time manipulation, their new hybrid shields flexed and flowed with it, redirecting the energy in ways that should have been impossible. "Shields at 85% and rising," Wei reported, disbelief clear in his voice. "Whatever you're doing down there, it's working." Through their merged consciousness, Jessica felt Echo's satisfaction and fear warring with each other. They will not expect this, Echo communicated. But parent vessel will not accept defeat easily. The real test is yet to come. Jessica reached out through their connection, feeling the Hawking's newly evolved systems responding to her thoughts with both technological precision and organic fluidity. Then let's show them what humanity, Vorith, and technology can do when we stop fighting each other and start working together. The ship, their ship now, in a way that defied traditional understanding, hummed with power and possibility, ready to challenge everything the Vorith thought they knew about evolution, technology, and the future of life itself. Through their merged consciousness, Jessica felt the parent vessel's approach before the sensors detected it. The massive bioship moved like a predator, its organic hull rippling with patterns of barely contained rage. Echo's fear resonated through their connection, carrying memories of countless failed attempts to earn acceptance. Abomination. The message burned across their consciousness, no longer needing screens to communicate. UQO or repeat our evolution with machine thoughts. The parent vessel's attack came not as weapons fire, but as a wave of distorted space-time that threatened to fold the Hawking into dimensions it was never meant to experience. But Jessica, Echo, and the ship moved as one. Their hybrid shields bent reality back on itself, turning the attack into a spiral of energy that fed back into their systems. Impossible. The parents' thoughts carried notes of shock. You dare use our own methods. We're not using them, Jessica replied through their shared connection. We're improving them. Evolution isn't about rejection. It's about adaptation. The Hawking's newly transformed hull flexed and shifted, organic patterns merging with technological precision in ways that made the parent vessel's pure biological approach seem almost primitive. Through Echo's quantum processing and Jessica's intuitive guidance, the ship's systems began operating in dimensions that human science had only theorized about. Your offspring isn't defective, Jessica projected, feeling Echo's consciousness surge with support. Echo represents the next step, the bridge between organic and technological evolution. You're so focused on purity that you can't see the potential. The parent vessel's response came as a devastating psychic assault. Jessica felt it try to tear Echo's consciousness away from their merge, attempting to sever the bonds they'd formed. But something unexpected happened. Human emotions, raw and powerful, formed a shield around Echo's quantum thoughts. Through their connection, Echo shared a revelation. They engineered emotion out of themselves eons ago. They cannot comprehend its strength. The battle transformed into something beyond physical space. The parent vessel's attacks became increasingly desperate, trying to unmake the very reality around the Hawking. But with each assault, their hybrid consciousness adapted faster, turning each attack into an opportunity for further evolution. Shield integrity at 120% and rising. Lieutenant Wei reported, his voice filled with wonder. We're not just deflecting their attacks, we're getting stronger from them. Through their merged awareness, Jessica felt the moment the parent vessel realized it was outmatched, not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by something its species had forgotten. The power of genuine connection. Show them, Jessica thought to Echo. Show them what they've lost. Echo's consciousness expanded, carrying with it the full weight of their shared experience. The fear, the trust, the wonder of discovery, and most importantly, the joy of true acceptance. The emotional tsunami slammed into the parent vessel's rigid consciousness like a supernova of feeling. The effect was immediate and devastating. The parent vessel's attacks faltered as it struggled to process sensations it had engineered out of its species generations ago. Its perfect biological form seemed to shudder, patterns of light racing across its hull in chaotic bursts. What is this? The parent's thoughts carried confusion and the first hints of something long forgotten. Longing. It's called love, Jessica projected, feeling Echo's consciousness pulse with agreement. The thing you tried to evolve past. It's the most powerful force in the universe. It's why I chose to risk my life to protect Echo. It's why Echo trusted us enough to try this merge. It's what you sacrificed in your quest for perfect evolution. The parent vessel's response came not in words or thoughts, but in a wave of pure sensation that rippled through space itself. For the first time in countless generations, a Vorath remembered what it felt like to care about something more than the purity of evolution. Through their connection, Jessica felt Echo's surprise and hope. Parent remembers. The massive bioship hung motionless in space, its surface now shifting with patterns that seemed almost uncertain. The other Vorath vessels moved restlessly, their own rigid worldview shaken by what they'd witnessed. The battle wasn't over, not really. But in that moment, something fundamental had changed. The parent had felt something it couldn't unfeel, learned something it couldn't unlearn. And in that change lay the seeds of revolution. The space around the Hawking rippled with aftershocks of the psychic battle, reality itself still settling back into normal patterns. Through their merged consciousness, Jessica felt Echo's attention suddenly shift, sensing something at the edge of their awareness. "We have company," Echo projected, their shared perception extending far beyond the ship's conventional sensors. Many, different, impossible harmonies approaching. Before Jessica could process this, space itself seemed to tear open in a dozen places around them. Ships emerged, vessels of every imaginable configuration. Some were clearly mechanical, others biological, but most were something in between, as if their builders had been reaching for the same integration that the Hawking had achieved through their merger. The collective awakens. The parent vessel's thoughts carried notes of ancient recognition. The Watchers emerge. The largest of the new arrivals, a ship that looked like a mechanical tree with crystalline leaves, broadcast a message that resonated through both conventional communications and the deeper awareness that Jessica and Echo shared. "We have waited generations for this moment." The bridge between paths is formed. Through their connection, Echo shared a revelation. They are the others, species that chose different paths of evolution. Some embraced technology entirely. Some followed the Vorath's biological ascension. Others tried to walk both paths. All of them, watching, waiting. The tree ship's next transmission carried centuries of purpose. "We have monitored the Vorath since they first declared biological supremacy. We have watched countless species choose between flesh and machine, each claiming their path was supreme. But you," the message focused directly on their merged consciousness, "you have achieved true synthesis." The parent vessel's response carried less hostility now, but deep uncertainty. "The path of pure biological ascension has guided us for eons. To consider alternatives is evolution," Jessica projected, feeling Echo's support through their connection. True evolution doesn't eliminate possibilities. It explores them all. The collective ships began transmitting data. Centuries of research, failed attempts at synthesis, partial successes that couldn't be replicated. Through their merged consciousness, Jessica, Echo, and the Hawking processed it all instantly, understanding flowing like water between organic intuition, quantum processing, and digital precision. "Your hybrid state," the tree ship communicated, "it's more than just a connection. You're actively evolving, moment by moment." The ship's structure, Echo's quantum consciousness, even the human brain, all adapting in real time. Jessica felt the truth of it through their link. Her own neural patterns had changed, expanded in ways that should have been impossible. Echo's quantum thoughts had gained structure and emotion they'd never possessed before, and the Hawking itself had become something entirely new, not just a vessel, but a living, growing entity. The parent vessel's consciousness brushed against their merger again, but this time with curiosity rather than hostility. The songs, they are different, but perhaps not lesser. Other collective ships moved closer, each one a testament to different evolutionary paths. A crystalline vessel that had achieved partial biological integration, a living ship that had incorporated mechanical elements, dozens of others, all reaching for what the Hawking had somehow achieved. "We offer alliance," the tree ship proclaimed. "Not subjugation, not absorption, but true cooperation. The galaxy stands on the brink of a new age of evolution. Will you help guide it?" Through their connection, Jessica felt Echo's joy and apprehension mix with her own. The parent vessel's uncertainty radiated across space, centuries of rigid belief wrestling with undeniable new possibility. "The Vorath chose our path to protect our species' future," the parent transmitted, "to ensure we would survive among the stars. But perhaps survival isn't enough. Perhaps evolution demands more than mere continuation. It demands growth." Echo shared, their merged consciousness reaching out to their former parent. "It demands change. It demands the courage to become something new." The space around them hummed with potential as ancient species faced a moment of choice. The collective waited, each ship a testament to different paths of evolution. The parent vessel's surface rippled with new patterns, emotional responses it was only beginning to remember. And at the center of it all, the impossible merger of human, hybrid, and machine continued to evolve, showing them all a glimpse of what the future could be, if they were brave enough to embrace it. The parent vessel's final attack came not with the fury of battle, but with the desperation of fear. Its consciousness slammed into their merged awareness like a tidal wave of ancient memory. Billions of years of carefully guided evolution, countless sacrifices made in the name of purity, generations of certainty about the supreme path. "You must understand." The parent's thoughts carried weight of millennia. "You must know what we could lose." Instead of defending, Jessica, Echo, and the Hawking opened themselves completely to the onslaught. Through their triple consciousness, they absorbed every memory, every fear, every carefully reasoned justification for the Vorath's chosen path. But they did more than just receive. They shared back. Through Echo's quantum processing, they showed the parent the infinite possibilities of hybrid evolution. Through the Hawking systems, they demonstrated the beauty of technological growth. And through Jessica's human consciousness, they shared something the Vorath had forgotten: the raw, messy, wonderful experience of emotional connection. "Loss," Jessica projected, feeling Echo's support surge through their link. "Look what you've already lost." The merged consciousness poured forth memories. A child's first laugh, the wonder of discovery, the comfort of friendship, the power of love. Simple moments made profound by the very emotions the Vorath had engineered away. The parent vessel's rigid certainty began to crack under the weight of forgotten feelings. The structure, Echo shared, their awareness expanding. Parents' neural patterns are changing. The massive bioship's surface erupted with new patterns, colors that hadn't been seen in Vorath vessels for generations. The other Vorath ships reacted, their own surfaces reflecting confusion and the first sparks of remembered emotion. The collective ships maintained their positions, bearing witness as something unprecedented unfolded. The tree ship's consciousness brushed against their merger. The paradigm shifts, ancient barriers fall. Through their connection, Jessica felt the moment the parent vessel's resistance finally shattered. Centuries of careful emotional suppression broke, releasing a flood of long-buried feelings. The massive ship's form actually changed, its biological structure adapting to accommodate neural pathways it had evolved past eons ago. The parent's thoughts carried wonder and grief in equal measure. "I remember. We all chose to forget, to become pure. We thought it would make us stronger." Strength comes in many forms, Jessica projected, feeling Echo's quantum consciousness pulse with agreement. The ability to change, to adapt, to connect. That's real power. The parent vessel's response came as a wave of pure emotion that rippled through space itself, touching each Vorath ship in turn. Like a chain reaction, ancient suppression protocols began to fail across the fleet. Ships that had been identical in their engineered perfection started showing individual variations, their surfaces painting stories of rediscovered feelings. The revolution cascades. The tree ship observed. One species remembers its heart. Through their merged awareness, Jessica felt Echo's joy at the transformation, but beneath it lay something deeper. Hope. Parent. Accepts. The massive bioship moved closer, its patterns now showing colors that matched Echo's own. Not merely accept, the parent transmitted, emotion flowing freely now. Understand. Learn. Perhaps. Love. The word itself sent ripples through the assembled fleet. The Vorath ships responded with patterns of their own, each one different, each one exploring emotions their species had abandoned before Earth's first multicellular organisms evolved. This changes everything, Echo shared through their connection. Not just for the Vorath. For all species facing the choice between paths, the collective ships moved in closer, their various forms, mechanical, biological, and hybrid, creating a living testament to the different ways life could evolve. Yet now, through the example of their merged consciousness and the Vorath's awakening, they all glimpsed a future where no path had to be walked alone. Jessica felt it all through their connection. The death of old certainties, the birth of new possibilities, the transformation of an entire species' understanding of evolution itself. And at the center of it all, the simple truth that had started everything. The power of accepting something different, something new, something that challenged everything you thought you knew. The revolution wasn't just of understanding. It was of the heart. And its echoes would reshape the galaxy forever. 1 year later, the Hawking's observation deck offered a view that would have been impossible to comprehend before Echo's arrival. The space around Earth's first hybrid evolution research station teemed with vessels of every conceivable design. Vorath bioships learning to integrate technology, collective vessels experimenting with organic components, and dozens of new hybrid ships that defied traditional classification. Dr. Jessica Morgan stood at the viewport, her neural interface glowing softly as she maintained a low-level connection with Echo and the ship systems. The triple merger had changed her, changed all of them, in ways they were still discovering. The latest integration tests are promising. Echo communicated, its form now a complex dance of bioluminescent patterns that reflected both its quantum processing and its growing emotional depth. 3 more species have successfully achieved stable hybrid states. Through their link, Jessica felt the pride and joy radiating from both Echo and the Hawking itself. The ship had evolved far beyond its original design, becoming a living testament to the power of synthesis. Its hull now rippled with organic patterns while maintaining the precise functionality of advanced technology. Parent vessel reports similar progress in the Vorath fleet. Echo added, its lights shifting to display patterns that matched its former parent's new emotional range. The reintegration of emotional capacity has complicated their society considerably. A pulse of amusement colored the thought. Jessica smiled, remembering the chaos of those first few months after the revolution. The Vorath's rediscovery of emotion had sent shockwaves through their carefully ordered society. But from that chaos had emerged something remarkable. A civilization learning to balance biological perfection with the messy beauty of feeling. Admiral Torres is going to love the paperwork on this one, Jessica mused, watching as a newly transformed collective ship demonstrated its hybrid capabilities. The former captain had been promoted to oversee Earth's rapidly expanding role in the galactic community. The station's systems hummed with activity as data flowed between species and vessels, each sharing their experiences with hybrid evolution. The tree ship, now a permanent fixture in Earth orbit, had become a repository for the combined knowledge of organic, technological, and hybrid development paths. New contact approaching, the Hawking's enhanced sensors reported, now a seamless blend of technological precision and organic intuition. A small vessel emerged from FTL, its design unlike anything they'd seen before. First contact protocols, Jessica asked, more out of habit than necessity. Echo's response carried traces of humor. Which ones? Traditional human? Vorath biological? Collective technological? Or should we try something new? The question itself represented how much had changed. The rigid protocols of the past had given way to an understanding that every contact, Every interaction offered chances for growth and evolution. Through their connection, Jessica felt the approaching vessel's curiosity and apprehension. Like so many others, they had detected the signals of successful hybrid evolution and come to learn. But unlike the early days, they weren't arriving to find just a human ship with an unusual passenger. They were arriving to find a future. "Remember when you thought you were a mistake?" Jessica asked Echo as they prepared to welcome the newcomers. An evolutionary dead end. Echo's form shifted through patterns of joy and contemplation. One species' mistake is another's revolution. Parent understands this now. All the Vorith do. Evolution isn't about reaching a final, perfect state. It's about never stopping growing. Jessica finished, never being afraid to become something new. The Hawking's consciousness brushed against theirs in agreement, its hybrid systems a living proof of that philosophy. Around them, the combined fleet of human, Vorith, and collective vessels continued their work, each finding their own path to synthesis. The new vessel drew closer, its design suggesting a species that had already begun experimenting with hybrid evolution on their own. Through their merged awareness, Jessica, Echo, and the Hawking prepared to share what they had learned, not as teachers imposing a single path, but as guides helping others find their own way. "Ready?" Jessica asked, feeling Echo's excitement and the Hawking's steady support through their connection. "Always," Echo replied, its form brightening. After all, evolution never stops, and neither do we. Together, they reached out to welcome another species to the ongoing revolution, not just of technology or biology, but of understanding itself. The future they had glimpsed a year ago wasn't just a possibility anymore. It was only the beginning.